Right, well, we're going to get stuck in straight to the Premier League predictions. Now, little caveat, I have to say, this is before the Thursday Premier League game. So some of the numbers are going to change ahead of the weekend, but I promise everything that we have that we're going to tell you today is correct as of Thursday. Hopefully, there's not a big, massive, ridiculous amount of results on Thursday night. So, it all still works out. Hopefully, it'll be all right on the night. That's what we're aiming for at the moment. So we're going to start with the first game on Saturday. We're going to go through chronologically all the way through to Crystal Palace against Manchester City on Monday night. Right, so Mo, we're going to kick off with Brighton against Liverpool. Brighton have been impressive on the whole this season, and they do have a good record against Liverpool. They've scored in all of the last 5 Premier League games against Jurgen Klopp's side. Liverpool have just got 1 clean sheet away from home in the Premier League. That goes all the way back to December. And in those games, they have given up a lot of chances. They've conceded 20 shots against, 6 goals. So that's around 1 goal for every 3.3 shots. However, Brighton are a bit shot shy. They're only averaging 2 shots on target in Premier League games at home in 2022. Give us your call for this.
It's got to be Liverpool, isn't it? Right now, they're I mean, I know they had their loss against Inter, and everyone was like, "Oh, is it a good loss to have? Is it a bad? You don't lose momentum." They're too good for Brighton. They're too good right now. They're entering that mode. Mohamed Salah even said after the game, maybe we were a bit overconfident, but now we can take it and go back. And look, if Liverpool, if Salah's acknowledged he was overconfident and is now determined not to be overconfident, come on, Liverpool are going to take it so seriously. They're going to want to make a statement win. I mean, I feel for Brighton. I like Brighton, but they're going to get slapped.
Okay, fair enough. Right, that's a pretty straightforward one for Saturday lunchtime. We're going to move across to Saturday afternoon. Brentford against Brighton. Jake, our boss man, has flagged this up as head tennis Olympics because nobody has won more aerial duels this season than the Brentford and Burnley players, Kaya.
Yeah.
Chris Wood, Ethan Pinnock, James Tarkowski, Ivan Toney. They are kings of the skies. There's not been a massive amount of excitement from either of them. Ivan Toney's been in really good form, 5 goals in his last 4 in the Premier League. Generally speaking, if he doesn't score, Brentford don't score. He gets a lot of his goals in the box. All 5 in 2022 have been Fox in the box finishes. And Burnley do give up chances in the box. 12 Premier League goals they've let in 2022. 10 of them have come from inside the box, including 4 against Chelsea last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, you make it sound like it's going to be a very exciting game, don't you? I don't really know.
I do my best.
I always find it tricky to predict against Burnley just because they seem to be so comfortable with what they do, so effective at what they do. But in recent games, their results have been a little bit disappointing. And I think some of their defending against Chelsea wasn't the most impressive. And I feel like maybe Burnley could exploit that, but at the same time, Brentford could exploit that. But at the same time, the way Brentford play in terms of lobbing balls into the box, I think that is meat and drink for Burnley's defence. They'll be able to cope with that. I mean, so it's difficult to see this being too high scoring a match. I think Toney being back is obviously massive for Brentford. Maybe a bit of quality from Christian Eriksen will make the difference, but I can't really see anything other than maybe a slightly dull score draw, maybe 1-1 or maybe even a scoreless draw, a 0-0, that kind of thing.
Okay, we're going to move on to a game that probably or hopefully should be a bit more exciting, which is the Saturday evening game, Manchester United against Tottenham. This one's a bit more of a narrative game, Mo, than the numbers. Conte ball goes to Old Trafford. He lost both of his games at Old Trafford when he was Chelsea boss. Ralph Rangnick and Manchester United are having their problems at the moment. Roy Keane has basically just read the riot act. He's listed players that should be immediately sacked from Manchester United. We know that Keane likes to be a bit of a shrinking violet on these things. There is pressure on Rangnick and on United, but they do have a good record against Conte.
They do, but they're also a mess right now. There's such a lack of structure and cohesion. Conte, when he lost against Man United previously, was facing Mourinho's Man United. And Mourinho's Man United weren't necessarily great. They had their moments, but they were a solid team, right? And they had Zlatan in that first game as well. So there's no Zlatan now. There's no leadership. There's no nothing. The veteran strikers either don't want to play for the club or are having fits, because they're not allowed to start every game. United are a mess. They're a shambles. They're coming up against Spurs who are in rhythm, who are in the mood. Spurs just, they duffed up Man City. They slapped up Everton. Look, Harry Kane is coming. Harry Kane loves it against United now. He didn't used to. Son loves it against Man United. I'd like to be optimistic. I think it will be an absolute hammering. Honestly, a hammering. I think it'll be like 4-1 Spurs.
Okay, fair enough. Conte breaks his duck at Old Trafford, according to Mo. Moving on, Chelsea against Newcastle. Kaya, Newcastle are banging form at the moment as they look to get themselves out of relegation. They're third on the current Premier League form table. That's based on the last 5 Premier League games. 13 points from a possible 15. Chelsea do concede goals, particularly at home. 10 goals let in at Stamford Bridge. And obviously there is situations going to be happening at Stamford Bridge this weekend. You can buy a sandwich, but you can't buy a ticket. That's now been confirmed. And Newcastle do also score goals away from home. Generally speaking, in 2022, they've got 4 in 3 and 8 in 10 based across the whole season. And you've got a nice little subplot. You've got Joelinton against N'Golo Kante. Joelinton, who last year was a struggling striker, now he's been reinvented as the greatest midfielder in the world. But he's coming up against Kante, who invented being a midfield tackler, basically, or reinvented it.
Yeah, I think it's the sort of the derby between the financial doping of the past and the financial doping of the future, isn't it? Newcastle, very good form. It's difficult to know because all of these intangibles around Chelsea in terms of how the sort of the craziness around the ownership is going to affect them, how the lack of fans in the stadium might affect them. Obviously, season ticket holders will be able to go, but the relative lack of fans, how all the disruption will affect them in the build up to this game. And then obviously Reece James not being available again is going to be a massive loss for them. So it seems that a lot of things are conspiring against Chelsea that seem to make this potential for a bit of a banana skin for them. I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle go there with the form they're in and players like Joelinton playing as well as they are and dominate. Maybe not dominate, but come away with a really decent result. I think Joelinton, has the potential to dominate the midfield. Obviously, it'll be interesting to see him against a top quality opposition like Kante. But I'm really seeing a potential upset here. So I'm going to go for a draw. And I think potentially Newcastle, who used to be Chelsea's bogey team back in the day, I think they might sort of resurrect that stereotype there.
Moving on to Everton against Wolves, Mo. Frank Lampard, it's not going well. It's not going right. Everton can't score. They can't defend. Just 2 shots on target in their last 3 Premier League games and no goals. However, grateful for small mercies possibly as they're facing Wolves at a time where their push for Europe is slipping off. When you are short on confidence as a manager, as a player, as a fan base, as Everton are right now, you need a few free hits. And Wolves, strangely, have gone from being a team that were really tight at the back to giving up a lot of chances. They've conceded 17 shots on target against in those 3 games that they've lost, and they've led up 5 goals. They will give Everton chances, but can Everton take them?
No. Let me just check something quickly. Yerry Mina. No, he's still injured. Everton are going to lose. Everton are going to lose big. They're rubbish without Yerry Mina at the back. He's the best defender in the world. I'm sorry, everybody. I've been telling you guys forever, and everyone laughed at me. But look how bad Everton have been without him. They're going to get relegated. Nah, forget it, man. Forget them. They're going to get absolutely, I don't know. I can't even say the word because it's it's a family show. Wolves have lost 3 games in a row. Yeah, Wolves are going to be motivated to turn it around, man. And Wolves have got a good manager. They've got good players. They're a tough team. Hwang Hee-chan, fantastic. Look, man, Wolves are going to win. The Wolves are going to win big. I think 2 or 3. Maybe they won't keep a clean sheet, but I think they'll win easy. I think Everton are in trouble. Everton are not a good football team. They've got good football players, but they're not a good team. They've got issues with their ownership, issues with money, issues with their coach, who is, the Peter principle, but also nepotism, just, molded into one human being. Come on, Wolves are going to win.
Okay, fair enough. Right, you've made your point. You made your point. Pro Yerry Mina. Not anti-Frank Lampard, but maybe unmasking Frank Lampard. Leeds against Norwich. Kaya, this is has the potential to be an absolutely wild game, given the amount of chances that these 2 teams give up. Leeds are top of the Premier League, but not in the way that Leeds fans want them to be. They're top of the Premier League for shots on target against. 156 shots on target against this season, and Norwich are second with 141. So they give up absolutely stacks of chances, but similarly to Everton, neither of them can score because 12 shots on target for Norwich in their last 4 games, 2 goals, and Leeds are in a similar situation, last 4 games, 11 shots on target, 2 goals. They've both got the lowest amount of goals per shot in the Premier League this season, 0.05 for Norwich and 0.07 for Leeds. So they give up loads of chances, they create loads of chances and miss them, 0-0.
Yeah, exactly. I actually liked what I saw from Leeds in Jesse Marsh's first game against Leicester. I thought it was actually a pretty promising turnout. Obviously, the goal didn't come, but I thought they were quite unlucky to lose that game. I think the XG from that game was something like 0.4-ish for Leicester and 2.1 for Leeds. So that shows you like how many chances they're creating is the point you were making there. So if you're looking at the two teams who are creating lots of chances, who has that little bit more quality to finish them off, I would say Leeds have a little bit more quality than Norwich in the final third. Obviously, with the stats you just mentioned there, it's all relative, and Leeds will want to be converting those chances more. But if they're going to stay up, then they need to take 3 points in this kind of game. And I think Jesse Marsh, when he's looking at fixtures, will have sort of picked this one out as a good chance to get his first 3 points under his belt. And I think he may even want to get a few more goals under his belt just to get a little bit of confidence, get the fans on side. And I think this will be a very important victory for Leeds.
Okay, Southampton against Watford, Mo. Roy Hodgson has kept up his side of the bargain of making Watford a bit more defensively sound since he's come in. 7 games and just 8 goals conceded compared to 16 in Claudio Ranieri's last 7. But in reality, when you're down at the bottom in a relegation dogfight, you need to turn that positivity of keeping the ball out of the net into goals at the other end and points. And Watford are just not doing that at the moment.
They're 4 points behind Leeds, right? Okay, yeah, I know Burnley and Everton are closer to them, but Burnley and Everton have games in hand. Everton, I think, have 2 games in hand, right? So there's a chance, and again, I don't think Everton will, but there's a chance those teams can step up and pull away. Watford are, look, yeah, you're saying only 7 and 8 conceded, so okay, they're better, but they're still not good. Right? They're still bad as a team, and Southampton are really good. Now, I know they got smashed up by Aston Villa, but Coutinho, Steven Gerrard, there's some weird alchemy going on there. They don't have Watford don't have anything like that. Emmanuel Dennis has lost the mood, the vibe he was in at the start of the season where he was really doing well. They're gonna. I think maybe like a 1-0. Maybe Southampton will have that old problem where they dominate and struggle to score. It could be like that. Maybe they don't. So maybe Watford can hold them out. But I still think Southampton will find a way. I think 1-0 Saints probably.
Okay, West Ham against Aston Villa. Mo, I'm going to throw this back to you. Claret and Blue face-off, Claret and Blue derby that I flagged this up as. West Ham have had a bit of a wobble in the last few weeks as they look to push for either Champions League or Europa, but fairly rock solid at home in 2021-22. 24 points from 12 home Premier League games, just 1 home defeat in the Premier League since Boxing Day. They're probably going to be without Jared Bowen, who's been fantastic for them this season. He's had 79 games as a streak with no injuries, no suspensions. That's going to break this weekend when they face Villa. Villa were really good last weekend, battered Southampton. As you said, the Gerrard, Coutinho alchemy. How's this going to go down?
Look, West Ham are really good, okay? And West Ham have done really well in the Europa League so far this season. They've done really well. They're having a great time. But this is the thing. Look, European hangovers are a thing, right? I like West Ham. They've really done a really good season, but they're going to played Sevilla, right? That's not a small game. That's a big game. They're going to have coming off playing Sevilla. They're going to be tired. They're going to be a bit oof. And then Gerrard has not only had a week to prepare his team for this team. Gerrard has Coutinho, who has just lit everything up at Aston Villa. He's back amid the chaos of the Premier League. He's going to be great. I would love to say West Ham will win this and keep the pressure up on Man United and the other top 4 players, top 4 teams, sorry, I should say. But, I find it very hard to look past Aston Villa and Coutinho in this. And with Gerrard as the helm, Gerrard's a really good, I spoke of Lampard earlier. Gerrard, on the other hand, is a really good coach. I think he's a really good manager. He's reignited Coutinho. I think Villa take this one, maybe like 4-2, 3-2, lots of goals, I think.
Okay, Arsenal against Leicester. Kaya, we're going to get your view on this. Jamie Vardy loves to tear up the narrative and he loves to tear up my notes because he's injured. And the entire focus that we were going to look at surrounding Arsenal and Leicester was on Jamie Vardy because you know, and I know as Arsenal fans, Arsenal have had this weird mental block with certain strikers, Wayne Rooney, Didier Drogba, Harry Kane, and Vardy, who's got 11 against them, more than any other team that he's scored against in the Premier League. That they are kryptonite for Arsenal defenders, and this has been the case for over a decade. So, from an Arsenal perspective, there's no Vardy. Does that essentially say to Ben White and Gabriel, listen, you were going to get a big test, now you're not, but the tests are going to come further down the line this season?
I think the Arsenal defenders, in particular, have been having quite a big test in the past few months and games anyway, because Arsenal's style has changed subtly, but the way they play so much higher up the pitch. If you look at someone like a Granit Xhaka, for example, he used to basically sit back in the back three. He's now often the furthest man up the pitch. That's a massive change in the way Arsenal play. They leave themselves a lot more exposed. So someone like a Jamie Vardy on the counter with Harvey Barnes, that could have caused Arsenal a lot of problems. And I still think Harvey Barnes can cause Arsenal a lot of issues on the break. On paper, you look at this game, you think Arsenal were almost shoo-ins to win because of the form they're in, won their last four, looked pretty convincing in doing so. But I think Mikel Arteta wasn't exactly happy with the way the team defended against Watford. They let them through. Watford could have had, I think, a few more goals. They outscored Arsenal on XG. So it wasn't as easy a win as it probably should have been against a team like Watford. So I think Arsenal will win this game, but I think Leicester have the potential to cause Arsenal a lot of problems. And I think if Arsenal struggle to be as clinical as maybe they have been in recent matches, then there's scope for a decent result for Leicester. But I'm still going to have to predict an Arsenal win just based on the form of the two sides right now.
And you have to predict an Arsenal win to keep yourself in good favour.
Yeah,
good favour with me. So yeah, 3 points for Arsenal. Every game, 3 points for Arsenal. I don't know why we haven't won the Premier League already. Right, final game of the weekend, Monday night action: Crystal Palace against Manchester City. Mo, concrete Catalonia against real Catalonia, because under Pep Guardiola, City have had a bit of a bogey team situation with Palace. They've only done the Premier League double over them once since he's come into the club. They've lost at home to them this season, and no other side outside of the Big Six has given Pep as much trouble as Palace since he's come to English football. They've picked up 23 points from 33, which is not bad, but considering the amount of games that Manchester City win against mid-table sides, is not a great return. There's so much attention on that game at the Etihad against Liverpool in April, but this could be a stumble for Pep.
Well, this is the thing. City tend to follow up disappointing results with long winning runs, right? And I think that's what's going to happen here. I think they definitely did. Palace give them trouble, and Palace will give them trouble again. However, I think City will be so motivated to just get back to winning ways and really put their foot down and pull away. They'll want to, if they can, pull away from Liverpool as much as possible ahead of the clash with them, right? So then there's so much pressure on Liverpool for that game that they can then dominate a bit more easily. So let's see what happens. But I would suspect City will win this, not comfortably. It's never going to be comfortable for City against Palace. Like you said, Palace are a good side as well. Aside from any bogey team nonsense, they are actually a good team under Patrick Vieira. So I think, Palace are good. They're in good form as well. They've won 3 of their last 4. But I think City will just have about enough to take this one. I would say maybe like 2-1, 3-1, 2-1 probably. Let's say 2-1.
Okay, box ticked. That is all the Premier League games this weekend wrapped up. We'll be sure to go back to this next week and check and see how successful or not successful both of you were in terms of predictions.